Welcome, everyone. Thanks for hanging out with us again tonight at Immigrant Techies, Alberta. Everything I had open on my windows just disappeared, so I'm going to have to ad-lib everything here. So we are a group, we're a meetup group for immigrant professionals who are tech enthusiasts that want to understand what's going on in the innovation space in Alberta. And this is born out of the fact that all the good things we have going on in this space seems a secret to the rest of Calgary. It's like there's a microcosm of its own of an ecosystem where there's a lot of support and collaboration. And what I observed is that it wasn't translating to the larger Calgary community. And then for immigrant professionals, especially where we don't have a strong network yet, we're still trying to rebuild the network we left back from home. And so I just thought having a safe space where people can explore and just see what's out there would be very helpful. And that's why this group was founded, to be that place where people ask all their dumb questions, like what is coding, what is dev, like whatever question, so that nobody feels like they don't know, because it could be very intimidating. For me, from when I was looking from the outside, I was like, oh, tech is for the cool, woke generation, maybe not for us, But coming closer, I saw the warmth of the space and just wanted to bridge that gap and bring people together. So that's what we're doing here. And tonight we have Kevin Crowe and Micaela Friesen, I hope I said it right, from Longview Systems, and they'll be sharing a presentation, and we'll have a discussion later after that. We also have Peter Mark Bennett from Freedom Mobile Short Communications. He also will be sharing a presentation, and we'll have a chat after that. So take it away, Kevin.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm Kevin Crowe. I'm EVP of Strategy at Longview Systems. Think of my executive portfolio kind of as the creative side of the house. So I work on product development, business development, strategic alliances. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about Longview. But before I do that, Mick, do you want to introduce yourself as well?
Sure, thanks. So I'm Micaela, or Mick for short, as you have Kevin calling me. Nobody can say my name right, so Mick is fine. I have been at Longview for 9 years. I am currently the manager of recruiting, and I have a big portfolio. It's mostly on, like Kevin, it's strategy, but in the recruiting space. So talking about recruiting trends, market comparisons, competitor comparisons, all of those things.
Yeah, and so what we thought would be of value is we're going to share some information, what we've seen around kind of the digital transformation, what that means for careers and skill sets and things that we're seeing in the marketplace. So first, just give you some quick 411 on Longview. So Longview was born and raised in Calgary. We're about 21 years old. I've been at Longview pretty much since the beginning, so coming up on 21 years. We have grown to over 1,200 employees across North America. So we have offices in Edmonton, Vancouver, Victoria, Toronto, Denver, Houston, Dallas. All of that was organic, so that wasn't by mergers or acquisitions. We grew it just working with our client base. We are about being a 100-year-old company. 100 years starts today, so we're not to be bought or sold. We're not trying to get a certain size to be acquired. We're trying to make this incredible company where people can come and have amazing careers. Because when you love the place you work, you deliver tremendous value for your clients, but you also, we feel you get into a really healthy place, and that's where you go back into your community, change your community for the better. And so that's Longview's mission, a 100-year company to make these incredible careers happen, drive tremendous value for our clients, and then we end up changing the communities for the better that we participate in. We are privately owned, and so we're not chasing quarters. We're all about taking that long view. And if you think of where Longview is focused right now, we do sell hardware and software to people. We do project work, we'll stand up IT, and we do operational support like managed services. but we really focus in on that digital organization and really supporting that digital organization. And we really have bet the company on Microsoft and Cisco. Those are key parts of our ecosystem. And we have built a bunch of offerings, what we like to call the super partners, so that clients can come to us and we can help them with the vast majority of their digital transformation needs. And anything from data and data modernization to creating that modern worker. That person can work from any place, anytime, on any device, giving them analytical insights so they can understand what they need to do to impact the business in a positive way. We do have a security practice, so we have what we call digital defense. We have a security operations center, and we help our clients stay secure, and we're monitoring them 24/7. We also do a lot of cloud work. So when you look at Microsoft Azure, and we do a little bit of AWS and Google, and really help our clients get into that agile kind of digital organization, because really what we're trying to do is get them to this digital org where they have that worker that's working from any place, anytime with that device. They're using that data. Then we're helping them stay agile by using cloud. And then we work with Cisco, so on the network side, keeping it super flexible, and then making sure we secure that. And then we also keep them optimized by continuously looking at their cloud footprints, making sure they're only spending money on what makes sense, and then helping them procure things like hardware and software and that type of thing. And so that's Longview at an overall quick view, and obviously we can answer questions about that. But I think what would be great is Mick's going to dive in and talk to you a little bit about what we're seeing from a recruiting point of view, and obviously when we see people applying for Longview.
Thanks, Kevin. So it's obviously a great time to be in tech. Tech jobs and people are in such demand right now. The unemployment rates across Canada are really low. Alberta is at 2.9% in our industry. And these stats are from March. April's stats don't get released till Friday. So these are the most recent ones. And so you can see in the image here, I'm just getting a little bit of feedback. Perfect. Thank you. And so you can see in the image here, I do have it for all of the provinces. So these are the provinces that we have offices in, Longview does. And you'll see here for Alberta, 2.9% compared to a overall industry average of 9.7%. So you'll see the huge gap there. And at Longview ourselves, we have 93 open requisitions right now, and 60 plus of those are or can be based in Alberta. So there's a huge demand here across Canada too, and the US, but especially in Alberta. Next slide, thanks. And we just thought we'd go through some tips for job seekers. So it's really important to do a lot of things. There's a lot of companies out there hiring, which is really exciting for a lot of people. But we want to make sure that we're leveraging our skills and everything else we can to get noticed. So making sure you're doing your research. So know the company you're applying to and why you want to work there. Don't just send a mass email or blanket applications for companies that you don't really know much about or know if you even want to work there. So that's really important. Keeping your LinkedIn profile up to date and professional, of course. That includes having a professional picture and having your experience certifications, all those things up to date as well. And then having a professional, grammatically correct and spelling error-free resume, always updated, and make sure you include your contact information. There are times that we receive resumes with no contact information. So there's no way to get a hold of somebody unless you hunt them down on LinkedIn, which is possible. And when you are requesting invites for people on LinkedIn, make sure you include a personal note. It really adds a special touch so people know that you're actually interested in connecting with them and networking with them. And that brings to the next point, network, network, network. Make sure you're connecting with as many people as you can. Join groups on LinkedIn. Obviously, this is the same thing why we're all meeting tonight, a nice meetup group here. So making sure you're really leveraging that and networking. And then keep sharpening your saw. So make sure that your skills are always being upskilled, you're reskilling. That's really important to keep on top of tech nowadays. Thanks, Kevin.
So I want to show this to you, and unfortunately I won't be able to send it out afterwards because this is information given to us by Gartner specifically to us. I can show it, I just can't duplicate it and share it with you. But what this is the IT talent quadrant. So it's showing us basically how much certain current job openings there are, so how hard they are to fill, and how much demand pressure there are, how many times companies are going out and looking for those opportunities, right? So if you look up, and if we're looking at it, if you look up in the top right-hand quadrant, so this quadrant that's, you know, baby bluish, you can see that these are the jobs that are in the highest demand and the hardest to fill right now. Now, we've circled some from our perspective, the ones that we are really working with kind of the most, or we're keeping an eye on. So things that are really hot for us, you know, automation, obviously machine learning, data science, right? That's definitely a hot area. We do a lot of work with cloud, so infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, right? That cloud world. And then this DevOps, where we're working in that more agile type environment with UX design. Those are really cutting edge areas, places we're headed towards. If you see down here and kind of looking at the right, still the far right quadrant that has security engineer, software defined networking, all that means is they're in high demand, but they're being filled a little bit more. There's not as much vacancy in them. So still really big for us, security, any type of security right now. Security is a very hot area for us. Software defined networking on the networking side is growing fast. I don't think it is in much demand as cloud and as in data analytics for us, but definitely you can see that growing. You can see the stuff that is in lower demand right now, especially through COVID, is desktop support, network maintenance, virtualization, network design, right? So, you know, take a good look. The critical needs, the highest kind of openings are up here in this, you know, Kubernetes, artificial intelligence, that type of thing. Now, this is really interesting. This is from Gartner as well. And I know that when we're talking to Wumi, we were talking about some people that have background in business and they're kind of pivoting to IT. We're seeing those areas really come together, right? That a lot of people with strong business acumen are picking up IT jobs because they understand that area of the organization. So, you know, 79% of business leaders, they're hiring their own technical staff from people inside their organization saying, hey, can you become more technical and take this on? We're also seeing, you know, the IT staff having to be more consulting, more evangelizing, more coaching, really understand some more of those BA skill sets. And 77% of employees now are using analytical tools and technologies. We really see what we call the citizen developer movement. So using tools like Power BI, people at companies are starting to develop workflows and automation processes and solving problems and very much thinking like an IT person. So that leads us to another area I just want to highlight, and that is the area of OT, operational technologies. We know that, you know, we have this world of IT, which is on the right, so the clouds and, you know, the network infrastructure, and that's an area that Longview's traditionally done a lot of work in. We also know that there's this area over on the operational technologies, and I think some people probably have engineering backgrounds, et cetera, on this call. So, you know, that's the SCADAs and, you know, the systems that are running the plants, et cetera. And we're seeing a lot of those areas come together because they're using like historian data and that type of thing to get insights from the business. And this is going to be one of the fastest growing areas we think in the coming years. Somebody that can translate OT to IT and work in those areas is a really important skill set. If you look at this, this is the ISA 95, really talking about operational technologies. There's various levels to it. So business planning, hey, I understand the business. I can start putting together, you know, problem solving plans. I can put together roadmaps of how we're going to unleash the full power of the OT systems. This is where we play mostly in operations management. So this is like security, making sure that we're checking for network connectivity, doing data, pulling data from those systems, making sure those systems are up to date, patched, that type of thing. But then you can get down here into the PCN networks and the physical production process. And so we're seeing, like I said, a huge demand. I was just on a few calls this week around, you know, some of our clients saying, hey, we need people that can understand both sides of those businesses. So I would say, you know, some great advice from our side would be, you know, keep an eye on this OT, especially if you come from a, you know, business process engineering background, you've got some vertical knowledge. And then of course, we'll just go back here, the critical needs, the high upper box here and the lower box are really where we're seeing high demand that we cannot fulfill that easily. And I don't know, Mick, if you have any comments on kind of recruiting some of these skills up here that we've talked about.
Well, you just kind of covered it. They're just in such high demand. Companies are doing everything they can. They're being creative with trying to find people. And it's going to continue to get more of a war on talent for sure.
Absolutely. So just some quick things to think about. We'll hand it over from there, and I'm sure there'll be questions afterwards. We're happy to answer all of them.
Thanks, Kevin and Mick. I'm sure people have a lot of questions, but let's have Peter Mark's presentation first, and then we can have the discussion together. And Devin here is my co-host. I forgot to introduce him. He has engineering background, so he's prepared a lot of technical questions for you, Kevin and Peter Mark. Okay, Peter Mark, welcome.
Just doing an audio check and a visual check. Are you able to see and hear me, or see the presentation anyway? Yes?
Yes.
No?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we see the
Yes, yeah, it's good.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Kevin and Micaela. I've worked with Longview just in a partner relationship here at Shaw. I've moved over to Freedom Mobile recently, but very few times in your career do you have an opportunity to work on something cool. And Kevin talked about a lot of the cool jobs, and Micaela touched on a lot of the opportunity and heavy demand. And I know some of the people on the call have struggled with getting into some of those high value roles and aligned to some of the things that they've trained a long time for, either in engineering or some technical aspects of their careers. So my point is this: keep hanging on, because we need you. Calgary needs you, Alberta needs you, tech needs you. And this is an exciting time. And Kevin touched on multiple areas that we're all going to be focusing on. Today, I have the opportunity to talk to you about 5G. As I mentioned earlier, I've recently moved over from Shaw Communications to Freedom Mobile. I've been focused on a very specialized area for the last 2.5 years in my 24-year career in what I'll call ICT, information communication technology. I've worked for many of the big telecommunications companies in Canada, and most of the fun I've had actually has been with Shaw. I've been with Shaw for about 11 years. I've been in tech all my life, but I'm having one of the most fun times right now. And it's around 5G and private LTE. And let me tell you a little bit about what that is. And Kevin touched on this a little bit, we're on the cusp of the fourth industrial revolution, or what some people coin the phrase as Industry 4.0. And it's demonstrated, and I'll show you in a little bit, about real practical applications that we're seeing in the industry today. And that is an investment in ICT. And I said what that is at the outset, but as a percentage of investment as part of gross domestic product, we're putting that back, or industrial customers or enterprises are putting that back into their businesses as part of digital transformation. And again, Longview talked about it, but I'm going to spend a little bit of time giving you some insight on where we're going as an organization. And as many of you know, we've had an acquisition offer from Rogers, but it's really cool to see how industries are changing their business models, like a telecommunications giant like Rogers or Bell or TELUS. They're changing the focus, not based on their opportunities they see in front of them, they're changing because their customers are demanding it. And I'll show you a little bit about that momentarily. So you're seeing this confluence of key technology enablers, and that magic quadrant that we saw with Gardner. All of those things, as much as that is as busy as it was, is real. And you're seeing things that Longview's focusing on in edge compute and hybrid clouds and IoT enablement, but we're seeing it on the OT side with AR and robotics and artificial intelligence. And it's happening now. It's not things that companies are dreaming of and saying, we wish we could be there. They're doing it now. So 70% of these enterprises are investing in IoT today. They're doing it in different ways. They aren't doing it all or nothing. They're moving this operational technology, these deterministic engineering systems that we're seeing into that converged network, that converged application. You're melding into things like multi-access edge computes, and the partnerships that Longview mentioned with organizations like Cisco and Microsoft. We're partnering with Nokia and Microsoft to do some of those same things, but we're leaning heavily on partners, because guess what? Companies aren't one-dimensional. They have to be multi-dimensional, and we need to focus on what we do best. And at Freedom Mobile Shaw, we're focusing on the infrastructure side and trying to reach back into where our customers want to go. Just a little further on the insight into Industry 4.0, the challenges are really economics, and economics of, the old world. I'm going to say old world. I'm probably going to get in trouble for this, for anybody who's been in telecommunications or is in telecommunications. But that tethered infrastructure world is now ubiquitous in terms of wireless, particularly as we start to look at 5G and all of the things that, again, we're in that magic quadrant: security, reliability, high data rate, low density, and all of those things now is where we're focused as an organization, certainly based on customer requirements, not by, hey, some person on the product development team, and I was one of those individuals at one point in time in my career, dreaming up great products to bring to customers. All of a sudden, it's customers saying, can you build it this way? Can you do it with this in mind? And I want to own the network, by the way. And all of a sudden I'm going, sorry, can't do it that way. But we're changing our thinking and moving forward based on those requirements. Just again, a few things. I'm not going to cover all the bases here, but here's what's happening in areas like private LTE and 4G and 5G is we're all of a sudden looking at moving out of legacy services where customers have really leaned on heavily and they've built it themselves. So what is private LTE? I should have started at the outset by saying, what is private LTE or 5G now, which we're deploying with our customers? It's building a network purpose built in a geography or a place that is carrier grade LTE or 5G networks that you're using with your smartphones. These customers are actually buying a carrier or a telecommunications company equipment. They're deploying it in a mine, which I'll tell you about in a moment, and owning it themselves. So we're developing it, building it, deploying it, and then handing off all the technology and convergence opportunities back to those customers. Why? Because they want it. And that will create more demand for those positions, as we heard from Micaela earlier, and it's just going to snowball. So I'm tremendously excited about it. So I'm going to show you a real life opportunity, and we're doing this with not one, not two, not three, but 4 Calgary-based organizations that are in the resource industry. This is private LTE, which is transforming to 5G in when it's available and when all of the devices present themselves. So what does it mean? Business applications, so the IT world, and digital value platforms, industrial automation. So those OT things that Kevin was talking about, how they're moving that not only from the legacy world, but to the new world, cognitive analytics, asset optimization. And then you get into multi-cloud opportunities. So all the positions that you heard from Longview are coming right now. High performance networking. And this was really how I got into the full opportunity of private LTE at the time. One of our customers said to us, listen, we're contemplating putting out $1 billion of capital, $1 billion. And their legal team reminded us as we were doing contracts, that's 1 with 11 zeros. But, and the fact of the matter is they were investing $1 billion in autonomous vehicles, these 400-ton trucks, but they needed a very solid network to communicate with autonomous vehicles. So back to operational technology, analytics that were plugged into it to make sure that they were getting the efficiencies that they needed, and all of the things that went along with it. So it's integration, it's understanding all the touch points of the typical IT world marrying up to OT. So it was really, really cool. And as you can tell, I'm pretty excited about it because I think there's tremendous opportunities for a lot of people. And together with you, the individuals that are on this call, we're trying to work and create these scenarios. And I don't have a slide to depict all of the requirements we have at Freedom Mobile or Shaw Communications specifically related, but there are numerous opportunities available, and we're working with industry partners, and we're setting up actually a 5G hub here in Alberta, which we're going to be doing some accelerator programs on education, which we're hoping to work with Reskill Calgary on creating some opportunities for experiential learning, whether that's in the form of intern programs or co-op programs. But we're just so deficient in those resources, whether they're in telecommunications on the wireless infrastructure side, or just having knowledge of operational technology for that merge that we see in the ongoing demand. So with that, I'll close off and perhaps defer to any questions. If anybody is interested, I can answer questions on what Industry 4.0 is and some of those use cases that we're experiencing today. With that, I'll hand it back to you, Wumi.
Wow, thank you so much, Pierre Marc. I don't know if it's just me, but there was a lot in those presentations, both Longview Systems and Pierre Marc's, and it's exciting. I mean, there's a lot of detail and there's a lot of excitement in the air. And one key takeaway for me is that Calgary needs you. Like, even if this looks tough, because I know a lot of people on this call who have gone through boot camps or some training or the other, and it's not like they're not getting the job right away. And sometimes you might feel like, was that a wrong choice? So I like how it came out of the discussion from both of you that we actually, Calgary needs you, Alberta needs you. So, and it's exciting, the future is exciting. And so when we distill this down for non-techies like me, what can we do? What can someone that has an engineering, say process engineering background do right now to step up to be that person that bridges OT with IT? Kevin, I'll throw that to you.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll just share a little bit of my background because I think it's kind of relevant. You know, I studied and had a degree in something that was not technical at all and had nothing to do with technology. And I realized I wasn't employable or I wasn't getting good jobs. And so my sister, who lived in Victoria at the time, pointed me to this information technology program, which was really around, hey, somebody with a degree, we're going to retrain you to be in technology. And this was just as, you know, the mid 90s as the .com era was unfolding. And so I went through that program and I got my MCSE, my Microsoft Certified System Engineer, through that program and came to Calgary on a work term and ended up never leaving. And so, you know, what I would say is that moment that happened in the mid 90s when I entered the marketplace, there was a big shift in technology, right? So it was interesting being a person that was just trained because I came into the market and I was very book smart. But I was working with people that had lots of years of technology experience, yet I knew all the latest technology and they didn't because they hadn't been exposed to it. And so together, working with them, I kind of got really experienced really fast. So what's my point here is the fact that if you are looking at new technologies like Microsoft Azure and you get certified in that, and that's from a long view perspective, something that's very near and dear to our heart. If you look at things like, you know, Power BI and the Power Platform from Microsoft and you got certified in that, there is not people with 5, 6, 7 years experience with those technologies. They're very brand new. The other thing, a little bit from our side as, you know, a Microsoft partner, a Cisco partner, is we have to have people with so many certifications. Like Microsoft is like, if you're going to be a gold partner, Longview, you need to have so many people with this certification, so many people with this certification. We need people, and sometimes we hire people because they have that certification. And so lining that up as well, saying, hey, what do you need? What certifications do you need? I'm willing to take those tests. I know everybody on this call is, you know, super smart, highly motivated. They're on a call at night. They're passionate about technology. So, you know, passing those tests, getting those certifications are ways that you can get into an organization and help us. And then obviously you're getting exposed to those skills and building those skills from there. The hardest place is getting in and getting those first technology experiences, right? Once you have those first technology experiences, lots of doors open up. So I know it's frustrating. And I know the first few projects I worked on, I was like rolling out desktops and literally was just a mover. That's what I was doing, right? But eventually, because I had the knowledge on the products, they had to keep giving me more and more things to help with. So I really emphasize, you know, looking for certifications on those leading cutting edge technologies. A lot of stuff we put up in that right quadrant are super helpful to open doors. And Mick, you see a lot of people. So I would trust your wisdom here as well. Anything to add to what I put on the table?
Well, just to sort of add to that, because everything you said is correct, obviously, the certifications, I mean, some of our hiring managers are really adamant on specific certifications, and we can't find them. So the more training, the more reskilling and upskilling that you do, that's really key. But also to look like just a little bit into the future, companies know that hard to find skill sets, there's just going to be a war to get them. That's really the way that things are going and are right now. So companies are going to start changing their perspectives on, you know, you'll see a lot of job postings asking for, you know, 5 to 6 years of experience in something, but that's going to start changing because of the demand for all the skill sets in IT and tech.
So does that mean that you, as a recruiter, you're more open to Udemy courses, Coursera trainings? Like, would you consider those as skills that people can say, I've studied this, I have this completion certificate from Udemy?
Yeah, I mean, and that's part of the re-education with our hiring managers too. It has to keep, the conversations have to keep happening, and that's what our recruiting team here at Longview does with our hiring managers, to inform them of the low unemployment rates in tech, and to inform them of, the candidates that are out there that have these certifications. They might not have the hands-on skills or the experience that we're looking for, but they have to start being open to it. So I can speak for Longview ourselves, saying that we are open to that because we have to be, and or else we'll be left behind, and we know that.
Yeah, and want me to give you some like practical examples of how this works, like right inside the organization, right? So I'm the executive responsible for a Microsoft relationship, and a few years ago, we bet the company on Microsoft Azure Cloud, and we were all in on that. And we only had a handful of people that had experience with Microsoft Azure. And so I literally started going around the organization, and I would find somebody on our service desk who was teaching themselves Microsoft Azure at night, and I would bring them over to the Azure team, right? Because they showed me passion. They showed me that they were willing to learn. And by the way, there was just nobody else with like this big road of experience, right?
Mhm.
Then we literally, because we ran out of those people, I think, Mick, we did 250 internal people with Azure training over the last 18 months, right? So we
Yeah.
took people inside our own organization and we said, we're going to make you Microsoft Azure people. We're going to get you through the training, and Microsoft helps us with that training. And those people are through the training. And then I went to Microsoft, because we still have 80 whatever positions open. And I said, what am I going to do? I'm going to turn like my receptionist and all my salespeople into Microsoft Azure. Like, I'm running out of people, right? Like, I've got to get people from the marketplace. And so this is the practical way. Like, if we see people with passion that are learning those skills, that are showing us they're advancing, we're super intrigued to bring them in.
So I'll just throw this out there right now. If there's anyone here that has any Azure certification, can you just put it in the chat right now that you're already in that path, and just let's highlight that.
Yeah, any Microsoft, I'd say any Microsoft in total, we'll take a look at it. But yeah, that's an example of the high demand skills. Now, the one thing I will say too, just, we're a Microsoft shop, right? And I know when I was trying to get in the workforce, it would be like, people would come and present to us, and it was always like something I wasn't learning, right? They'd be like, Oracle is like super hot, and you need to learn Oracle. And I'm like, I'm learning Microsoft, right? And then the next person would come and be like, Linux is super hot. And I'd be like, I'm learning Microsoft. So if you're learning those technologies, and I would say push yourself to the newest cutting edge, and then find out the organizations in town that are working with those technologies. If you're big on Microsoft and Cisco, Longview is a great place to apply and get connected to. Obviously, you're working with 5G and telecom stuff, Peter and Freedom, that's a great place to get connected to, right? So this is just one company's perspective. So, if you're thinking, hey, I'm working with something else, do not feel like you need to pivot or change. It's just an example of where we're at with the skills we need.
Paramag, did you want to add something?
I got a couple things. One is, it's not just with the very specific certifications. I think those are good. But what we're seeing certainly on our side is this expansion. If you've got experience in manufacturing, or I give you some examples of where we're playing in the resource industry, which is in our backyard, but that covers a lot of bases in terms of operational technology, IT. So if you've got a mixture of either foundational engineering or technology background, think about different industries, because we're working with a large global entity right now on agriculture. Actually, Microsoft is very central to that discussion as well. We aren't saying that we're doing the edge compute aspects of it, but Microsoft is very big into vertical industries as well, as I'm sure Kevin will attest to. But think about where some backgrounds you might already have in your resume, whether those are in transport, because it's affecting transport, hydro utilities, resource industry, municipals in smart cities. All of the things that I talked about within the prospects of 5G and converged networks and converged technologies are applicable. So take some of the roots of where you focused on maybe in a past life, plus try to look at things that we're trying to introduce with experiential learning, meaning if we can bring ideas forward in terms of accelerator programs coupled with either intern or co-op programs. We're studying that right now, and I'm trying to drive those forward for one selfish reason, because we have a high demand for individuals. And I'll give you an example. One of the people I work with on our client side, who's in the mining sector, this individual studied software at Waterloo University and spent a few years with a company called BlackBerry. And those of you who remember BlackBerry know it as one of the earlier smartphones. But he moved to a very small community called Sparwood, BC, where they have a coal mine. They have a series of coal mines. He moved out there for one purpose. He was in a very nice job in a nice little city in southern Ontario, and he moved to a community of less than 3,000 into a coal mine. And why did he move there? To get experience on autonomous vehicles. And we're doing autonomous vehicles with a company called Tech Resources. And they're doing that, and this individual moved there just to get experience on autonomous vehicles. So there's opportunities to marry up either your foundational education, your experience, verticals, throw it all out there, but and also put yourself out there, network as you're doing tonight, and working together with industry partners like Longview, like Freedom Mobile and Shaw Communications, and facilitated through WUMI. So keep generating, don't give up. We need you, just to reiterate what WUMI said, we really need you. We need your ideas. We need your work ethic, your dedication, all of those things we need to collectively with things that you're going to learn and things that we can pass on to you. But again, stay with it.
And I think this also brings a lot of hope for people, for engineers that don't necessarily want to throw away the whole experience they have. I know Shola is on this chat, and we've had that conversation before where he was saying, I still want to keep my experience. And Devin shares that sentiment as well. Like, I don't want to throw away my 15 years of engineering and then go start something that I have absolutely no knowledge about. So I like how this is giving opportunities to actually not just use that as a transferable skill. It sounds more like a core skill when you're looking for the intersection between OT and IT, and you already have those skills. So it's core, it's not even, it's bigger than just transferable. So I think that gives a lot of hope to people in that situation. I put a link in the chat, and that's we're just trying to gauge interest in how people will be interested in going through a training on 5G infrastructure. Like if we were to design something like that, what will people's response be like? So I threw in a link in there just to give us your contact so we can talk about that later.
Yeah,
so
one great company I'd love to put it out there, especially for people with engineering backgrounds, it's kind of like one of the best kept secrets of Calgary right now is Adabotics. Adabotics is doing supply chain with robotics, and they're growing like crazy. I think their valuation's over $1 billion. It was founded by a gentleman named Scott, who's a local Calgarian. And so they're committed to stay here. They're just an incredible success story. And I don't know exactly everything they're hiring right now, but I just know at their growth pace and obviously that engineering background coming in with some technology experience. I would encourage people with that background to look at that company right now. Symend is another company that SYMEND is doing a whole bunch of AI insights, founded by an immigrant to Canada from Iran. He's an incredible guy, incredible story. They did the largest VC funding, venture capital funding in Canada this year, and they're on a tear. They're hiring a bunch of people. So there's some really good tech stories in Calgary, and we're really seeing that that area emerge for sure.
Is there anything in the chat that I need to? In the meantime, Devin. Devin, do you want to? Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, you know, the whole idea of having this conversation today about operation technology is an interesting one, and rightly so. We've seen both Peter and Kevin's presentation about the intersection between OT and IT, and what used to be an isolated system on the factory floor, for example, is now becoming mainstream with the integration between those processes with internet connectivity and eventually the cloud-based system. So I'd like to ask this question. As far as security is concerned, at every level of that stack, so to speak, from level 0 to level 5 that we talked about before, there would be an element of cyber defense involved. Does it matter if you take that certification or the defense training from a particular institution? As you will appreciate, there is a variety of offerings out there, from the likes of CompTIA to ISA to SANS, offering the same kind of protection and systems, and one being more premium than the other. What kind of advice would you have for those trying to venture into the world of ICS cybersecurity?
Maybe I'll take a crack and then I'll throw it over to my colleagues, Kevin or Micaela. Having been in the security practice at one point in time in my career, what we're seeing, certainly what I'm seeing, is the realm of security, which is typically lived in the IT world, is now sort of trumping. So as they converge in terms of IT and OT, the standardization, the regulatory and compliance bodies are living in that IT world and actually landing on top. So all of those things are transforming from the world of IT, and as they converge, they're basically surviving, if you will, and thriving as part of the growth of those converged networks and technologies. But that's what I'm seeing purely from my experience with immediate customers in the last 3 years. But if you're seeing something different or similar, Kevin, I'll throw it over to you.
Yeah, just a couple of things to add. Not that I'm seeing something different, but I would say, and it's kind of a dirty secret out there, is that OT security is a massive gap, right? Like it's just in really bad shape. Like it's just not where it needs to be. And so, you know, a lot of those OT discussions we're having with companies is, hey, I need you to come in here and raise that level of security, right? Like help me become secure, because I don't think these devices are. So any of those standards like NIST, I think, is one that we see a lot of. But I would really encourage to make sure it's hands-on security work, right? There's a lot of kind of what I would say is more like kind of auditor kind of governance stuff, which that doesn't help us in our game, right? There's a need for that for sure. But we need people that are working in security itself. Like, how do you secure a device? How do you secure a network? You know, how do you deal with cyber threats, that type of thing. If you look at, you know, our cloud area and our data analytics, they're probably 1, 2 as the hottest area of recruiting. Security is number 3. And that's across Canada. We know, you know, once again, that concept of the war for talent. Like we literally are talking to a summer student right now in Nova Scotia, trying to get them just to work for a work term for us, because we want to obviously apprentice them and work them up. I think that person's got probably 5 or 6 people talking to them right now, the way that's working, right? So really hot area. We need people that are hands-on security, so any of those things. And I would say there's just a bigger and bigger opportunity on OT because those standards there have to be raised, and it's just not where it needs to be.
So there was a need for the marrying between a level of certification in network security with certifications that follow the NIST standard, or from the likes of CompTIA or ISACA or ICS squared.
Yeah, like Devin, if you were, let me just give an example that I'm kind of familiar with, because I'm not an OT guy, right? So some of those engineering technologies I can't really speak to, but if you knew Rockwell OT technologies really well, and you had a security background, right? Like if you had those two things, and you could come to these organizations and say, like, I understand the OT you're running, and I understand how to secure it and not take your business down. Yeah. They'd be like, okay, let's go, right? Because that's where the issues happen is, the IT people come and the OT people are like, you don't understand my business. I don't want you on the devices, right? You're going to take the business down. And the OT people don't understand how to secure it. So they're like, oh my God, I hope nobody hacks this. So as soon as you have those worlds together, it's super powerful. The people we have that know that right now, they've been at our client site or at client sites for like years, because the clients get them and they're literally just running OT project after OT project, securing and improving things like getting data out of OT devices. So if you have those two worlds together, yeah, it's the unicorn that people are looking for.
I'll just build on that for 1 second, Devin.
Yeah.
This is where the convergence really comes in, because these private networks that I just talked about is the reason for private, is because they can enforce their policies. They can have one central point of a security posture, if you will, whether that's authentication, whether that's in device management, all of those things. And it's a lot easier to do than a public network, obviously. So this is why a lot of this convergence is happening, but it's converging on a private network. That's where the birth of the WANs came in, and LANs and so on, and they basically built up from there. But now you've got this operational network, which has typically been segregated from the IT networks. Now they're coming together and they're onboarding not thousands, but tens of thousands of sensors, devices, and moving from the legacy world to this digital transformation world. So now you've got to have that umbrella that's going to touch all of the devices, all of the network.
So it almost feels like there is the need for a convergence of this talent unicorn, in which you are an IIoT automation industry 4.0 and the cybersecurity specialist too, and that would make you someone with someone like me, for example, with engineering background in the oil and gas industry. That would make me someone of a talent that's quite marketable.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I think of one of our high-end OT people. We only have a handful of them, but what he did was he came from the IT background. He worked for like an oil and gas company, and they put him on an OT project, right? Like they just picked him. They're like, you got to figure this out. And so he learned OT by doing that project. And now he's this incredible individual that can go into like, the main kind of controller room and talk OT with the people, right? And gain their confidence. And so he's literally working on a project that's probably like a 3-4 year project around kind of what Peter said, bringing networks together, consolidating them, securing them, going from like 6 control rooms down to 3, right? Using some more automation. That's a major initiative. He reports right to the COO trying to get that project done. But, if we had 10 more of those unicorns, there'd be 10 more of those guys out in the industry, 10 more of those people out in the industry working right now, for sure.
You're right, absolutely right. So what I can take away from this is there are multiple ways we can tackle the whole transition to tech, and how this would eventually add to a variety of skills, so to speak, that you could tackle it from. One question I have for you, Kevin, is obviously Launch 3 has taken the down the path of Microsoft Azure as a cloud-based platform. Was there a decision as to why that was chosen? Is that something in the likes of some of us looking to get certifications? Should we be looking at multiple cloud certifications, not just one?
Yeah, I mean, for us, we've always been a Microsoft shop. We were a Microsoft large reseller, right? So we sell a lot of their licensing, their traditional licensing. So we had a lot of Microsoft DNA already inside of us. And so we were partnering and doing things. AWS is in pretty good demand. I would say more demand in Eastern Canada than here. And Google would be third. But we're seeing a lot of clients that are choosing all three. Like, it's not that we don't do AWS or Google work. We just do, probably 80% of the cloud work we do is Microsoft, and then, maybe 10, 15% is AWS, and then a little bit of Google. So any of those certifications would make sense. I know Google has been out on a hiring spree like crazy in the West, Western Canada. And they've got a lot of people with both technical and sales backgrounds that they've been going after. The one thing I would say, and not just one kind of point of data, is AWS, one of the concerns is it's a competitor with a lot of our clients, right? So it's like, Amazon's a retailer. It looks like Amazon's going to be a bank. Amazon's an insurance company, right? Like, so a lot of our clients are like, I'm not going to go put my stuff in the cloud and compete and give them money to compete against me, where Microsoft just doesn't line up that way, right? So.
Well, thanks for that.
Okay, so Mohammed had some comments in there. I don't know if Devin or Kevin. I don't know if Kevin or Pierre Mark has.
Well, you know what? They always
anything
say,
to
I always
add
tell
to that
people
for
that
him?
Devin is Kevin with a
Huh?
D.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, he was talking about some of his experience, and just, I think some direction would be great there.
Yeah, I mean, to me, Mohammed, that background is beautiful for OT, right? The mechanical engineering with those types of technical skills. I'm trying to think. There's some potential internships. There's some potential places I could point you to for sure. So email me and let me connect you to some people in my network that I think would be relevant. I would really encourage Attabox. I don't know what Attabox is hiring for right now, Mohammed, but that feels like an Attabox kind of DNA. So I would look at them as well, but I definitely could look at connecting you with some people I know in the network for sure.
Okay, so you and that's Kevin now, you and Mick had shared with me that you have a number of open positions at this time. So do you want to?
Can I get your email?
Yeah, I'll just put it here in the comment field.
So where can we find this information about all the open roles? Your website,
Open
I'm
roles
guessing?
at Longview.
Yes.
Yeah, sure. I'll put that in the chat right now. I'll get your website here.
Yeah, and Mick, we're sitting at about 80. I know it keeps growing. I think did you say 60 in quote unquote Alberta that we're trying to hire right now?
Yeah, that can be based in Alberta, or are based in Alberta. Yeah, absolutely. And we're getting more and more every day, as you know. So
I think it's also useful to my comment and to Kevin and Peter's comment before about some of us here who are in the position of trying to transition into something futuristic in tech, in this case, is understanding what is a requirement out there for employers and targeting those employers and those jobs. And then by getting those certifications as a prerequisite to getting those jobs, sometimes we tend to focus on having too many certifications, not knowing which ones that we potentially use as a plan of attack to work in the industry or to break into it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, there's no harm in, having a conversation with that company about what they're recruiting and what they're looking for and what their needs are, like, for instance, like, I forget, I think we have 125 outstanding certifications we need filled right now. And so if people were like, oh, what is it? And, maybe I can go write it. Maybe I'm close to challenging that. That obviously puts you much higher on the list of potential being hired by Longview, right? Hey, I went and filled those requirements. So getting in those dialogues and conversations, because one of the things is, we always say this, and Mick, I know she has to deal with it, is we're looking for unicorns, right? We're asking for these impossible situations of, hey, I need somebody with like 5 years as your experience with a great security background that's worked in the finance sector. And yeah, it's not going to happen. And so it's kind of go, okay, well, what's the best we can do to fulfill as much of that as possible? And so good dialogue between, people that are applying and obviously the recruiting team just helps us, go, okay, well, we're 80% there or we're 60% there. This is how we could get the rest of the way there. Hey, maybe let's take a risk together. And I'm sure you're a fast learner. I'm sure you'll get up to speed kind of quick. There's a lot of those scenarios unfolding.
And I'll just add to that too. I mean, if there are companies that you're targeting, try to connect with their recruiters or their recruiting team by sending an invite on LinkedIn and just letting them know. Lots of recruiters out there. I mean, we're all busy, but we want to help people. So if we can offer advice as to how you can get into the company that you're interested in, then we will. There's agency recruiters out there too, who hopefully will also help with that too. But I just thought I'd add that on here. We do want to help.
Thank you. That's refreshing to hear, Mick. Abiodun, you have your hand up, and we are just going to round up here. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. So I'll just take Abiodun's question. You can unmute yourself.
Thanks, Wumi. My question is to Kelvin, and thanks for the chat this evening. Please, I've actually applied for several roles at Longview. I've applied for service desk technical lead and desk side team lead. I've applied for like over 3 or 4 weeks now, and I've not heard anything about the application, because I actually have like over 10 years experience in IT. I worked as an IT support analyst back home, but I'm still awaiting your response regarding my application.
So you follow up with me directly, and I'll make sure that someone on our recruiting team reaches out to you. Absolutely. I'll put my email here in the chat.
Oh, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I put a link in the chat for, I just created a Slack channel for the group. Please, if you can just join that, because I find that on Meetup, the engagement is really low. So I think it would be more engaging if we are all on Slack. It's up to you, everybody. So any last words or?
1 minute.
Yes, another hand up.
I have a question for Peter Mark, please.
Oh, for sure. That, if it's okay.
No, it's
Is
just
that
a
okay, Kevin, Mick, and Peter Mark? Okay,
Sure.
thank you.
Simple question for Peter Mark. I was just wondering, how big a team do you have in Calgary working for Freedom? My understanding was the bigger team is in Toronto.
Well, we operate a private LTE team. So we are actually building our own team as a sub of if you think of a commercial network or commercial macro network that everybody uses their smartphones on, versus this team that I'm working with is focused exclusively on private LTE or 5G. And that's all we do. So they're all, we have a few team members in Vancouver, but that team is very small and is in high demand. So we're trying to build that team. In fact, we're trying to double the size. We have 20 on the team now. We're trying to double it in the next year. So as Rogers comes together, Rogers is a big influencer, and they really want to push very hard on private LTE 5G. As I said, we're standing up a 5G hub with a post-secondary in the next couple of months that you'll hear about. And we're going to also be bolting on some experiential learning or accelerated adult learning programs with it. So it's very selfish to look at some of those graduates from the program. And I'm hoping that we can work with Wumi and possibly reskill in the areas of private wireless And so there's going to be more to come on that. So we're looking to build that team, and there's opportunities. If you want to reach out to me, you can do that as well. And I'll be happy to help together with Wumi going forward to anyone that is interested in learning more about the industry or opportunities within Shaw or Freedom Mobile.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you
And Wumi,
so
there's
much.
there's one question here about machine learning. I'd love to answer if we can do
Okay,
that.
that's great. I was gonna just close the meeting and then leave the room open, but go for it.
Is that okay? Okay.
Sure.
Yeah. So there's a question in here. Share your thoughts on applied machine learning. What we're seeing. There's a couple things I would say. Machine learning, definitely a hot topic. From our perspective, what's kind of hotter in demand is the things that come before it. So data modernization, data analytics, so helping people set up their data platform to use. And then automation. We've got automation teams that are inside our company now that are just going around automating tasks for us, right? And obviously they're using things like, RPA, like robotic process. They're using machine learning, but they're very good at scripting and doing automation in general, which machine learning is part of it. So we see this as a really growing area, but not just on its own. You kind of have to have, hey, I can automate, I can script, I can use machine learning. Therefore, I can make processes more efficient, more effective. And then organizations are using them throughout to make processes better, more cost effective. So hot area, just got to complement it with some skills.
Okay, so I'll stop the recording now and I'll leave the room open for another 10 minutes or so for anyone that still wants to hang out. Thank you so very much, Peter Mark Bennett, Kevin Crowe, and Mick Friesen. We really appreciate you being here tonight. That was a lot of good content. And
thanks so much for having us, and really appreciate the opportunity to share. And you can say we're obviously passionate about this and would love to help as many people as we can to get into this industry. It's been great to me. It's been an incredible industry, and I think it's just only going to get better. So much more opportunities,
Yeah, I'll echo that, and thank you for having me and giving me the opportunity. But I want to reemphasize, don't give up. We absolutely need everyone in tech because this province needs to transform, and without people like yourselves, we can't do it. So keep at it, keep working, keep networking. Don't give up. Please stay in Alberta. We want you here.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.